Hi, welcome back. Today's Tip Tuesday, and we got another great topic for you today. Today we're going to be talking about disclosure, the agency disclosure form. The agency disclosure might look familiar because it's the first 2 pages that the seller sees before signing a listing agreement and before a buyer signs a purchase agreement. This is a disclosure. It's not a contractual agreement or commitment that you have to work exclusively with this agent. But the purpose of this document is to make sure that the buyer and seller understand the relationship that they have with that agent and also the agent's responsibility to the client. There are 3 types of agency, and in any of these scenarios, the agent must act in the best interest of their client. They have to be loyal, they have to maintain confidentiality, and they also have to have a fiduciary duty to their client. So what does fiduciary duty mean? Well, I looked it up, and the definition of fiduciary duty in the U.S. legal system is a fiduciary duty describes a relationship between 2 parties that obligates one to act solely in the interest of the other. So the first type of agency is seller's agent. This is when the agent is representing only the seller, otherwise known as the listing agent. The agent has a duty to get the best price and terms for this seller. So they need to act in the best interest of the seller. But the agent also has some obligation to the buyer. They're required to disclose all material facts affecting the value or desirability of the property. For example, the agent is aware or has some knowledge that there was a class action lawsuit against the builder of the home that's being sold. Maybe the seller isn't aware. Well, the agent is still obligated to disclose that information to the buyer because it could affect the desirability of the property. Scenario number 2, that's the buyer's agent. So this is the agent that is representing the buyer in the transaction, otherwise known as the selling agent. I know that's confusing, so we'll just stick to calling it the buyer's agent. So the buyer's agent is similar to the listing agent. They have a duty to try and get the best price and terms for the buyer. They also have a duty to review all disclosures, reports, inspections, anything presented to the buyer during the transaction. And they will also assist the buyer in helping them determine if it's in the best interest of the buyer to purchase this home. So now we're going to talk about scenario number 3. This is an agent representing both buyer and seller in the same transaction, otherwise known as dual agency. So a side note, you hear me say agent, you hear me say agency. When I refer to agent or agency, talking about the agency disclosure, I'm actually referring to the company that the agent works for. For example, Vanco Real Estate. So you could have 2 different agents working under the umbrella of Vanco Real Estate. That is considered a dual agency. So dual agency can only be done with the knowledge and consent of all parties. That's where the disclosure comes in. So we just reviewed the duties of scenario 1, which was a listing agent, and scenario 2, which was a buyer's agent. They both have the same duty to each client to represent their best interest and try to negotiate the best price and the best terms. So after comparing those duties with the dual agency, you could see why it's really difficult to be a dual agent, and some people could consider it a conflict of interest. Some buyers feel that they can get a better deal if they go through the listing agent. In all actuality, it's not in their best interest. It's better for a seller to have representation by a listing agent and for a buyer to have representation by a buyer's agent. So when it does happen, the listing agent needs to take their fiduciary duty very seriously and make sure that they draw a line in between buyer and seller and try to abide by all obligations that they're required. And just one other side note to end this. Anytime agency changes, it has to be redisclosed. So for example, Vanco Real Estate represents the seller and we put it on the market. At that time, there's only a listing agent. We put it on the market and the buyer comes in and is being represented by Vanco Real Estate. At that point in time, agency has to be redisclosed to the seller, letting them know that Vanco Real Estate is representing both the buyer and the seller. So hopefully that answered any questions you might have. There's probably a lot more information that I didn't include in there, but I just wanted to get the basics. Thank you again for tuning in to our Tip Tuesday. And if you like what you see, don't forget to hit the like button. Education is key, and we like to educate our clients. Make it a great day.